Hey, hi, thank you. Yep, can you not hear me?
Yeah, Shreyan, we could hear you and Vedant. I think he's just rejoining.
Hear me now? Sweet. Okay, I'm here. Hi, hi. How are you? How are you all? Glad to be here. Sure. So, half of people will be joining in through Teams and half of them through YouTube, something like that. Yes, probably yes. Okay. On YouTube. Uh-huh. All right. Sounds good. All right.
Hi, Vedant.
I know Nihal from earlier, I guess, but I don't
Yeah.
think I know Gayatri. So hi, both of you. Right. I think I've interacted with him before as well. I don't know. I
Yeah, I
think.
think I've attended a couple of AI learning hours that you used to conduct.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I think we'll get started with Vedant's talk in a few moments. So if you don't know our speaker for today, Vedant, and Vedant is actually a TEDx speaker. He made his TEDx speech pretty recently. I remember attending that, and he's also a Gold Microsoft Student Ambassador. Uh, yeah, and I think he's an amazing person to tell you all about AI and research because he's been conducting these awesome AI learning sessions uh, eh, for as Microsoft Student Ambassadors, and I've personally learned a lot through them. So I hand it over to you, Vedant.
All right, thank you. And it's glad to be here. I'm very excited for these sessions, especially about research. So I took this oath for myself few years back, like a year or so back, that I want to guide people about research so that we can have a proper research culture in India, which is not there presently. So let's get started. And let me share my screen. So it's gonna be an interactive session. It won't be just one-way speaking, nothing formal. I'm just of your age, and as I was just preparing for the talk. All right. So what's this? I don't want it. Yeah, you. Right. So this is the agenda for today. We'll start with what is research, just some basic things about research that usually people have misconceptions about that I want to clear. Why research session in a hackathon, which is one of the important questions to answer here in this space. Researching in AI, how it can be done, how to get started, what are the things to follow, writing a research paper or writing multiple research papers, publishing your paper, and opportunities in research in AI, how you can have a long-term opportunity in research in AI, and what is current situation of research in AI. So we'll have everything, we'll talk about everything. There will be walkthrough, some demos, some how to do things, kind of walkthroughs, and I'm excited. So let's get started. Now, throughout this session, you can ask me questions. I created this Menti thing, which I did for the first time, so I haven't used it before. So there's this code, which I'll put in the chat, and I would request if someone can put it in the YouTube chat as well. Okay. Right. Or you can simply go to menti.com and use this code 57042617. You can ask questions. I think they'll come here. Right now, there's just one question, which is asked by me to myself, and I'll just give a thumbs up. Oh, mark this answer. So you can ask questions here, and I'll maybe in every few minutes or after every module, I'll check this slide if in case we have any question. I hope this slide remains ongoing while, all right. So there's this GitHub repo that I made, which I usually use for these research sessions to get started. You can always check this GitHub repo as well. I'll put the link in the chat. It has pretty much decent information about research. All right. So what is research is the first question. Now, usually what people think is that research is something very big. Just PhD students or professors can do that. How can a student from XYZ university in India, an undergrad student, do that? That's not possible, right? This is most of the misconceptions that people have about research. No, that's not true. Okay, the research that gets Nobel Prize is top-notch research, or the machine learning applications that you see right now in real life that Tesla or Elon Musk is using is definitely a high-end research, and that might not be possible for an undergrad student to just get started with. But why not? You can do a basic research, right? So there's these points. Research is process of converting the innovation to documentation. Now over here, I would also like to answer the second question that we have in our agenda. Why research in a hackathon? Why a research session in a hackathon? Now, you might say, a person in a hackathon is completely different, right? It's a developer drinking caffeine all the time and just using the laptop to create something, coding, and creating a product. And that is interesting. And research is boring. That's what people think. And it's totally different, I guess. But no, it's not. What I see is they are completely similar because hackathon and research both speaks about innovation. And innovation is the main thing here. And research is just converting your innovation to documentation. Whatever you do in a hackathon, if you are able to write it in a specific way, that's a research. That's it. Not only just hackathon, as a student, as an undergraduate student, we do mini project, minor project, major projects, XYZ project, ABC project all the time throughout our 4 years of engineering, throughout our 4 years of bachelor's or 3 years of bachelor's. Now, even there, we have some aspect of innovation in our projects. And if you can write that in a proper documentation, that's a research. So in a way, all of us are researchers. Now, just after this session, go ahead and add researcher into your LinkedIn profile because yes, all of us are researchers. It's just a creativity to enhance knowledge. It's just one set of skills which you require to just convert your innovation into a proper documentation, which stands as a research documentation. It's a heart of every discipline of science. So research can be done on any topic, irrespective of what you're doing or what you are studying. It's everywhere, right from marine biology to machine learning or anything else. I've seen people doing interesting research. I'll even share that. So it's everywhere. Now it can be done on any topic, as I said. Now following are the main points. It's innovation. But if you think that you cannot create something which is highly innovative, which is not a research, it's also problem solving. Take up any existing problem, try to solve that problem, and just write it in a paper. Even though if you don't have any infrastructure to solve that problem, you can simply write a proposal paper. So I propose this work, and this is what I think. And that can be a research paper. Do nothing, just write what you have in your mind. I'll give an example of that as well. It's analysis. Okay, let's completely be honest, and I cannot do anything of innovation. I don't know anything which I can innovate in future. But what I can do is I can put forward an analysis of what has been already done. Analysis of how EV has been growing or how effect of EV on air pollution in last 5 years, right? That's an analysis. We can do some analysis and publish that paper. And that will be an interesting paper. I would love to read that. Finally, observation. Similar to analysis, what's your observation of something happening? Maybe how the vaccines for COVID are working. Can you do an analysis, maybe geography-wise analysis, which can reflect some interesting hypotheses like the same vaccine in India works well, but the vaccine in Nepal, the same vaccine in Nepal is not working good, maybe due to some environmental factor or some health factor or some inherent factor that human body has in those geographical region. That is observation. And that is, again, an interesting observation that I would love to read. So there can be different type of research. And I'll tell you one more type at the last, which is most easy and most interesting for one to get started. All right, let's get back to our agenda. So we're done with the first point, which was a brief point, and the second point, which was again a brief point. We'll move to some detailed point, which is researching in AI and how. Now, the next thing to understand is how to get started. All right, Vedant, you told us that research is simple, one can do it, it's not really complicated, even an undergraduate student can do it, but how? How to get started? So let's jump onto that. Now, writing a research paper or starting with a research project. So first thing is to confine your research area. Research should be very specific. Now, you cannot say that I'm researching in computer science because computer science is vast. What are you doing exactly in computer science? So what's your research area? It can be artificial intelligence, it can be machine learning, it can be quantum computing, it can be network analysis, it can be network security, it can be cyber security. Oh God, there's so many areas that one can work on. So you need to first define your research area. What do you want to do? If you're confused with multiple research area that usually people are, then maybe do hit and trial. Which one fascinates you more? Or if there are multiple area which fascinates you, then we can do a hit and trial. Let's get started with one, do a research project on that. Let's jump onto another, do a research project on that, and so on. Now, once you have that area in mind, it's still an area. You need to define your title or sub area. So artificial intelligence, if you say my area is artificial intelligence, I want to do research in AI, it's still so vast. Research in AI is like, oh God, there's so many things one can talk about. What are you willing to do, or what are you looking forward to? You need to go into sub areas. A lot of people work on the implementation of AI, like you are creating some new algorithms. You think maybe XYZ loss function is better than RMSE and can give better results for a regression model, then great. That can be one of the research projects. That is one part. And the second part, which I broadly see and which is very popular, is applications of AI. People using AI in healthcare, people using AI in education, people using AI for social good, people using AI for environment or anything, right? For accessibility, for, I don't know, there's so many things that people do. So that can be one of the area, like sub area. Again, in that sub area, there should be sub area, because research is very specific. You might have seen some papers which talk about analysis of use of CNN, which is a neural network, convolution neural network, for detection of lung cancer in human body. So that's very specific, right? It's AI, it's CNN. It talks about specifically use of CNN for specific application, which is lung cancer. So even if you speak about AI in healthcare, you need to go deep down into what is your specific title. Now, defining a research area and sub area is still easy, but how does one define the title? That's a little difficult, right? So search for recent papers. Now, one can go for scholar.google.com, which is one of the popular websites to search for all research papers. It's simply a search engine like Google, and when you just search for any keyword, let's say artificial intelligence, it will simply list number of papers in that area from all the different sources, like all the journals and conferences. Mostly all papers that exist in universe can be found on Google Scholar, right? You can sort them, like by default, they're mostly sorted with the year or the popularity, but one can simply type the year, maybe 2020, and you can get those papers which are published in 2020. Now, still, the question is how to look for, how to decide your title. Now, this is one thing. I searched for artificial intelligence 2020, and then I got some results. What are people doing? So artificial intelligence distinguishes COVID-19 from community-acquired pneumonia on ChatGPT. Well, that's interesting. What are other people doing? Identification of COVID, again COVID, the role of AI in achieving sustainable development goals. So that is interesting. It's related to something like environment and stuff. So based on what you are interested into, you can go for it. Like AI forecasting of COVID-19 in China, AI applications for COVID-19 in China in pandemic. So if you can see that AI in 2020 was all about COVID. Everyone worked on COVID-related research, and that's what has been popular here. Now, this can be one way to see what others are doing and maybe taking inspiration from there and working on something. Another way could be to search for AI review paper. So when I search for AI review, say 2020, I guess some review paper. Again, they can be very specific. Like over here, you can see role of AI in rotor fault diagnostic, a review, application of AI in battling COVID-19, a review, AI for COVID-19, a review. So let's search for our subtopic, maybe AI in healthcare, a review, right? So I can see this AI in healthcare review and prediction case studies. So I can maybe open this paper. I can open some more papers. I have already this one here. Role of AI, okay, that's the same. In creative industry, in innovation management, and so on. Yeah. So we got this paper open, which is AI in healthcare review and prediction case studies. And let's see, let's scroll down further and see what this paper talks about. So it talks about AI for living assistants, like those smart devices, which are generally used for detecting if anything is happening with your body, or some portable devices. I think it talks about that. Then AI in biomedical information processing. So question and answer, some maybe health bots, which Shreyan has created with the team. Then AI in biomedical research, like for drug discovery, human genome sequencing, and so on. Then disease diagnostics and predictions, like these are very popular, using some image classification or computer vision models for detecting of skin cancer, lung cancer, breast cancer, some hazardous skin diseases, or some other diseases, XYZ. So detection and prediction of disease is pretty popular. Then now these are some specific applications like bladder volume prediction. And let's scroll down further. Maybe, okay, conclusion. So this paper talks about lots of different subdomains of AI in healthcare, and I can take some inspiration from this and write my own paper. So this is one of the way to do or recognize what you want to do. Now one can also search, simply go on Google and search for trends in AI or trends in AI research. So I did that, and I got this Stanford University website. They have published a report in 2016. So it's pretty old when we are looking at a field which is developing every day. So even looking at a report which is from 2016 might not be a good option, but let's have a walkthrough. So they suggest research trends in AI, right? So large scale machine learning, like supervised and unsupervised learning on modern data sets, or comparison of traditional methods with the modern methods, or some sublinear model and something. Then deep learning for computer vision, for object detection, video labeling, activity recognition, several variant of thereof, and so on. Now, as I told, this is a 2016 report, so definitely we have done a lot of things in AI since in last 4 years. This report might seem a little old. Now, reinforcement learning, robotics, computer vision, natural language processing, collaborative system, crowdsourcing and human computation, algorithmic game theory and computational social choice, Internet of Things, neuromorphic computing, and so on. So there's so many things. And they have reported, they've referenced some reports, some papers, or some additional sources from where this content comes from. So based on what you're interested into, for example, if someone is interested into algorithmic game theory and computational social choice using AI, one can open relevant reports and do a research into that. So I opened one of their one of this source, like on this website, there's this report which they used to create this article. I opened that report, and it has certain things like section 2 by domain. So they show some research in AI, but in different categories. Like the first one is the one which we discussed on the website itself, like natural language processing, computer vision, and robotics. But then we can go in here and we can look for AI by domain, like transportation. Whoa, a lot of people are working in automation, automated autonomous transportation, for road safety, and for maybe in flights, for other transports, for buses, for shuttles and everything. One can look into that. Smarter cars, then parking system for blind, like they've reported some recent papers, which have been some popular papers like lane departure system or intelligent parking assist system, blind spot monitoring, lane changing. Oh my God, all of these topics are so interesting. I feel like working on them. Then there's self-driving car, obviously. So that was about transportation. We can go down further, skip transportation, move on to something else. Home service reports. So vacuum cleaners. I saw this video on Facebook recently. There was this small portable vacuum cleaner which you just leave into your home and it will go around. You need to provide a map of your place and it will go around and just clean all around your house. It's based on some 3D analysis, also a little bit of AI, IoT, sensor-based system, and so on. Interestingly, I'm working on some pretty similar project with my one of my research internship, which I'll talk about later. Then home robots of 2030. So this can be interesting, right? Although this is a report from 2016, but they have made some future prediction how home robot will be in 2030. So you can look and read this paragraph, and maybe you can write a paper about that to make this possible, or to make some piece of code or some piece of application which can contribute to home robots of 2030. So you need a vision, right? They provide you vision, they provide you what you can do, and simply you need to apply your knowledge of artificial intelligence and do that. Then healthcare, one of the popular domain of artificial intelligence. Clinical settings, healthcare analytics, healthcare robotics, mobile health, elder care, lifelong, quality and independence, health and wellness. It's a detailed report which can help you know so many things. Then teaching robots, intelligent tutor system and online learning, learning analytics, challenges and opportunity, broader societal consequences, low resource communities, public safety and security. So I'm just going to skip because, okay, this is, I guess I've pretty much explained how you can look for topics, and we can skip the report. I'll also paste the link for this report in case required. And we'll move on. All right. Now I assume that after this, pretty much we know how to select our topic or how to get inspiration to work on a topic in AI. So once you have decided your title, we can jump on to how to get started with the research project or a research paper. The first thing is title, we are done. The second is abstract. Now abstract is the summary of your project. Although it is positioned first, right after title, but you write it at the last, because summary can be written only when you have written the whole paper, right? So we'll skip it for now. Then you come to introduction. You need to write an introduction for your paper. What is your paper talking about? Now I follow a 3-step introduction. The first one is your area. Simply, let's open a paper, maybe one of my papers, so like I can comfortably describe some of those sections there, and we can have a walkthrough. Which one should we go for? Okay, let's go for this one. All right, so this is a text similarity analysis for evaluation of descriptive answers, something related to NLP, where I want to create a system where the answer of students after examination gets checked automatically, even the descriptive answers, right? So how do I start? The first thing is introduction. So since my domain is machine learning, inside which I'm talking about NLP, inside which I'm talking about a specific application for descriptive answer, or let's say maybe NLP for education, how I get started here is simply with AI or computational intelligence. So I'm simply saying in this era, the use of computational intelligence is rapidly increasing. Every sector is adopting the upcoming technologies in order to advance their traditional system. The concept of machine learning and data science are being implemented in business with some citation, finance, manufacturing, and healthcare as well. There is one such sector which is sometimes neglected, which is education. So you see, it started on a very basic note, just about AI and how AI is being used in multiple sectors. And then somehow I take it forward to AI in education. And then we are talking about simply education, that what are some of the problems in education, or what are the inspiration for one to work for AI in education. So I talk about education as a sector holds a large amount of data, which includes student data, parents data, course developer management data, etc. In some paper, authors have identified some applications of machine learning and data science in education. Then I'm talking about machine learning and education, some earlier work, some application, up till maybe for a good amount of time, right? Then I'm talking about the problem that I'm working on. So paper evaluators, like traditional methods, are inefficient, and maybe there are a lot of problems with them. It takes a lot of time for professors to evaluate one paper, and it's a monotonous job. Why not automate it? That can be done with NLP. Now, since I'm talking about NLP, then I'll talk about NLP. So authors have used NLP, creating as existing tools. Now, what is NLP? So NLP is a subdomain of artificial intelligence, which deals with communication between human and computer. Chatbot, language translation, smart compose are some of the application of NLP. And after all of this introduction of different areas or different keywords that I have in my title, then I come to my specific topic, which is text analysis using NLP for descriptive answer checking, right? That was my introduction. Then let's go to the GitHub repo back. Then I come to the literature review. Now, what is literature review? Now, literature review is simply a review of literature. We read the existing work, which is done in the area that you are working on, and how you can connect that existing work to your work. So in literature review, I talk about researchers have often worked on this since last decade. On this, by this, I mean researchers have often worked on text analysis similarity, because anyway, whichever topic you choose, you're not going to be the only one to work on that topic. I'm definitely sure a lot of people have already thought of those topics and have worked on those topics. So don't worry, right? It's still a lot of things are going to be different. So here I talk about a lot of people have worked on this area. Earlier researchers majorly focused on developing a better objective answer system. Like in this paper, I'm specifically talking about descriptive answers, but already a lot of people have developed automated objective answer correcting system, simply like Google form, right? You feed the correct answer, and it's not AI, it's simply logic. But then with developing technology, people have also started auto gradation system for descriptive and subjective answers. I've referred some paper here where they have deployed certain models for the same purpose, but then those models were for single line evaluation. Now, in this case, I'm talking about of a paragraph level evaluation. So most of these existing researches were based on keyword analysis, and that didn't give a pretty much good result. So my paper is an extended scope of what already exists, and so on, right? Okay. By mistake, skipping the part multiple times. All right. So that was literature review. I talk about what already work has been done in this area, and then I simply end it with how my work is different than what already existed. Then I talk about methodology. So let's go back to the GitHub repo. We are done with title, abstract, introduction, literature review. Then it comes to proposed model or methodology. This section talk about what are you doing specifically, or what are you proposing to do, or what you did. So in methodology, you properly explain what's your goal, or what do you have in my mind, on your mind. So here I'm talking about the methodology for my system. What I'm proposing is a pipeline structure where we have examiners parameters. So we have 4 parameters that we are using to evaluate our answer. The first is ideal answer. So we are taking an ideal answer from examiner itself. So while the examiner or the teacher is creating the questions, the teacher also need to feed the ideal answer, the expected number of words, the required keywords, and the total marks allocated to that problem. And then we have scoring parameters. So those were evaluation parameters. Then we have scoring parameters based on size of answer. So we took number of expected words. Based on that, we are using size of answer. We are evaluating that based on number of words, and that constitutes as 5% of the total marks. Then I'm just blabbering here, so you can go through this report if anyone is really interested in working on knowing about this research. I'll share the link and you can go through this report. Then we talk about the language of answer. We talk about the presence of necessary keywords. We are scoring on that. And then we're finally scoring on similarity index of submitted answer and the ideal answer. Now for this, I'm using the Siamese-Manhattan LSTM algorithm, which is one of the NLP algorithm, which compare two pieces of words, two pieces of sentences or paragraphs and gives us a similarity index. And based on these multiple parameters, like not just similarity index, but necessary keywords, language of answer, size of answer, which are also important, we get the final score. Here are also some screenshot of how the system can be created. Like this is the examiner's portal. One can create questions, allocate marks, feed the ideal answer, number of keywords, the keywords, and add questions, and so on. And then finally, we have experiment where there is this examination. This is a student portal where the question is asked and one can answer. Finally, the student on time will get the report because it's an automated system. So how much marks did I achieve in question number 1 out of the total marks, and so on. So this is a teacher's portal. One can see, and the teacher can, if teacher is not satisfied with the automated system, one can also manually check it, and finally can approve and publish. Once published, the student can see those evaluations. So once I created this model, I checked or compared this model with the manual evaluation from teachers. So we sent the answer sheets to 3 professors for manual evaluation. These are the marks that they gave, and these are the marks in the first column that my auto evaluation system gave. And you can see it is pretty much, well, performing good. And that's the next section. So once proposed methodology is done, then we talk about the result and discussion. Once you have proposed what you did or how you did, you need to talk about how is that thing performing. So that can be with some results, some tables, some graphs. After comparing these results, I'm also comparing the results with existing research papers. So I told you, right, I'm using Siamese Manhattan LSTM algorithm in this paper. But the paper in my literature review used some other methods like RNN or cosine vector similarity or Jaccard similarity. And then I'm comparing the results with them. So you can see that model 1 of RNN received an error of 2.69. Then cosine similarity received an error of 1.66. Jaccard similarity received an error of 1.31. And my paper received an error of 1.37. So that was definitely less than model 1 and 2, little more than model 3. Oh, let me zoom. Yeah, model 3. But it's okay, because why my paper project is still better than the model 3? Because my paper considers multiple parameters, just not similarity index, but keywords, evaluation of answer, and so on. So I think that makes it better. So you do that discussion. Finally, you present a conclusion of the work based on what your hypothesis was, what you aimed to do, and what you mentioned in the introduction. Did the model work, or how did the model work? Was it better than existing system? And you can finally conclude it with some future work or with some future aim. Like here I say the current model fails to evaluate the answers if the answers consist of figures, diagram, equation, or numericals. But right now, we're just comparing text, right? We cannot really check if the answer has figure, diagrams, or equations or numericals. So we need to have some system which also evaluates those things. Also, right now, my system is on a digital system which only takes digital file. I also want to integrate optical character recognition to check the manual answer sheets. Just scan the manual answer sheets, handwritten answer sheets, and auto-evaluate them. That will be interesting, right? So that's how I conclude, and finally I give the references. So this is how a general structure of research paper is and how one can write a research paper. Let's get back to the GitHub repo. Let me also check some questions if we have any. Okay, we have some questions. The first one is, do we need to have a teacher guide for us in order to publish a research paper in popular journal? All right, so in terms of eligibility, no. It's not like your paper won't get published if you don't have a teacher guide. It's totally fine because, well, one thing, a lot of people think that if I am just a student and if I submit a paper, those people will reject my paper because I'm a student. That's not true. So your paper is the evaluation of paper, research paper, or the review of research paper is based on a blind system, a double blind system. So you don't know who the reviewer is, and the reviewers don't know who the author is. So they don't know whether you are a student or a professor. They don't care about who is writing the paper. They care about the content. So if you think you can write a paper by your own without teacher's guidance, even that is fine. So in terms of eligibility, there is no such threshold. You can write a paper by your own and publish it. But in terms of guidance, if you need a guide, then yes, you need, I'll say a guide, not a teacher guide. That guide can be your friend, that guide can be any other person, any senior or anyone. That can be teacher as well. So yes, if you're new, if you don't know much about that field, you can look for some professor support or guidance, and you can then publish a paper. And if your paper is good, then it will definitely go to a popular journal. I hope that answers the question. The second question is, what do I do if I'm not able to find data sets for what I want to do? All right, I'll come back to this question later. Or how do I skip this question? Okay. How do we know what research papers to go through? Interesting. All right, so if you're working on, let's say, machine learning for lung cancer detection, then simply you can search for machine learning for lung cancer detection and on Google Scholar. Let's go for it. Machine learning for lung cancer. And I can simply go for any paper, right? Classification of lung cancer using ensemble methods, because I'll have to read multiple papers. I'll simply open these papers and read them all and see if I get anything which is of relevance to what I am writing. And if it is, then I'll take some content from here. For example, I can simply go to the abstract and see what this paper is doing. So this paper talks about lung cancer. They talk about how there are three major types of lung cancer: non-small cell lung cancer, small cell lung cancer, and so on. They maybe talk about some algorithm that they're using for a detection of lung cancer. And then in my paper, what I can do is, for example, let's get back to this paper, the paper that I wrote, right? In this paper, what I can do is I can simply just see this sentence. I can simply refer to that paper. So I can say in Shiba 2014 refers to the first author and the paper, the first author of that paper and the year the paper was published. So I can go to this lung cancer paper and see, oh, not this one, yeah. I can say Jihua Sai Kai in some year, maybe 2020, whichever. In that paper, authors have successfully mentioned or deployed a model which predicts lung cancer for small cell lung cancer and using some XYZ algorithm, and they got accuracy of 98% or something. I can simply write write that about that paper. And then in my reference column at the last, in the reference section, I can simply list that paper. Right, all the details of that paper. So if someone is reading my paper and if they find that piece of content, that sentence interesting, they can search for the source paper in the reference and they can go to this lung cancer paper, right? So that is how you do the review, the literature review for your paper. And this is how you can find the papers that you want to refer to. Okay, let's see, any more questions? Okay. Getting back to this paper, what do I do if I am not able to find a data set for what I want to do? Now, this is a pretty important question, which is a popular question for everyone, not just you, but everyone who works in AI. If they are taking up a problem statement which is new, they don't have data set for it. In that case, usually what one do is, so this is not possible if you are just an individual. It's very difficult to get the data set, right? But when you are in a research lab, for example, I work for a research lab at University of Pennsylvania, and we work on machine learning algorithms or data science for education to develop education ITS, which is intelligent tutor systems, like Khan Academy and stuff. So to promote that or to develop them further, to advance them, we work on that area. And sometimes we don't have data set that we want. In those cases, we conduct surveys. We reach out to some agencies that conduct surveys. So we have funding for those research. We use that funding to give to those agencies. They conduct survey for us to generate the data set that we want. We reach out to some data warehouses. So there are some companies itself or some organization which stores data and sells data with some proper commercial license, not like stealing data from someone and selling it. Not like Britannica or Analytica. What was that? Facebook Analytica, that scam. Oh, nothing like that. Okay. So they do this proper work. They give you the data set. Like we refer to the Pittsburgh data shop, which is one of the shop for data. So you can go there and shop your data and you pay something and they get you the data that you want. And so there are multiple things, right? When I was working on cancer research, I went to a medical organization closer to my place, which was just opposite of my college. So we had a MOU with that college, with that medical college, and we got the data set from that college. That was a breast cancer data set, and we did research on that. So there are multiple ways to get the data when you want, but then you need to have some tie-up with those organizations which can get you data. And more likely, you need to be associated with some organization or lab when you're working on research. For personal research, it is very difficult to get your own data. How do we know what research paper to go through? Okay, that is done. With respect to NLP paper, did you already have your model in mind before you began the project? If not, how did it take you to search for a model which you want to implement? Interesting, very interesting question. Can I like it? Okay, it doesn't allow me to like it. So when you're doing research, definitely there are a lot of hit and trial. I looked for, first of all, I never did an NLP project before this. So I was very new to NLP. So first thing what I did was I did a Coursera course on NLP to know basics of NLP or some terms, how RNN works or how feed-forward. I knew about neural networks, but yeah, how neural network works in respect to the NLP domain. What are LSTM models? What are those feedback loop that NLP model has? How the basic NLP applications are working. So this was not directly related to my research project, but this was the prior education that I was supposed to require to get started with NLP. So it's very important. When you're doing research, you need to have basics concept very clear, very, very clear. You should be thorough with all the basic concepts. So first thing, I did that. Second thing, I focused on what I'm doing. So I was doing a text similarity comparison. So I just simply searched NLP algorithms for text similarity. So I got some algorithms. I read some paper. So this Manhattan, I knew about LSTM. So I read about LSTM. Then when I was reading about some papers in LSTM, I got to know about different LSTM methods, which were integrated with some different concepts, right? For example, when you can integrate LSTM with Manhattan distance. So that I found interesting. So I then got to know about this Siamese Manhattan LSTM. There was some research paper on that. That person did implement this and discovered this algorithm, but no one used it for this purpose, right? So my role here was to take up this algorithm which someone researched about, take this application which is in education, club them together and create a paper or research project which used this algorithm for this XYZ purpose. So although a lot of people have worked on research in descriptive answers, a lot of people have worked on research on LSTM and Manhattan distance, but no one clubbed it together. So what I did was then unique, right? It was an innovation. It was then a research. So that's how I came up with my research title. That's how I came up with the algorithm that I wanted to work for. I hope it answers your question. Also, if I would love to have an interactive session. So those who are here in the Teams call, if you have any question, do interrupt and ask. Right. What's the time? I hope I'm not extending the session. Okay. Right. So let's go back to the GitHub repo. And that's about research paper, right? Let's have a quick walk through some more research paper. Now, one more thing.
Hello.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just I wanted to ask regarding the NLP paper itself. Like you said that you searched online, and you said that that particular model had not really been worked on that task that you were wanting to work on. So like, but my question is, how did you know that that would give you a satisfactory result? Like, what if after all the effort it had not given you a good result? So like, would you have not published a paper? Because you said that it gave you a decent result, even though it was worse than one, it worked better than the other two. But what if it worked worse than all three? Then
So it's interesting, right? So first thing is, yes, what I did was hit and trial. I used multiple algorithms on this and saw how other algorithms are performing. But then when I used maybe jack-cat similarity or cosine similarity, which was already there, I did get good results. But I couldn't have published it because that was already existing, right? There's no point of publishing the same paper. So I wanted something new. So I looked for this new algorithm, and when I found it, I implemented this algorithm on my application. I didn't know whether it will perform good or not. I did that, and I got those results, which was better than the first one and not that good than the second and third one, but the different concept was better than the second and third one. So that was all right. Now, in case if your algorithm is not performing good, then any of those existing methods, that doesn't make a good paper, but still you can create a paper. So until now, and until very recent, what I had in mind is that if your algorithm or research fails, you cannot publish a paper, right? Even I thought so. But when I was working with this professor at UPenn, we did a research from January to March or April for 4 months, actually December to April. So for 5 months, and that research didn't work well. We got very poor results. And what that professor told me at UPenn was that, okay, even you can publish a paper on a failed research, because research is all about hit and trial, and people know that. And in case if someone at some other lab or someone at some other place at the globe thinks about this research title, that person will search for it and will find nothing. He or she will do that research for next 6 months and will fail. So why do we want multiple people to fail? We failed it. Let's tell the universe that we did this and failed it, so that if a new person tries doing it or search for it, will get to know that, okay, don't do this because this is a failed method, or do something new, and that person can save time. We can save time for some other person. So I did write a research paper on that. I'll show you how it was. It didn't go into a very good conference. So it went to a good conference, but not as the main full paper. I published it in a EDM conference, which is educational data mining. It was a paper based on data science for education. So it went to a good conference. It's a popular conference it's a popular conference in educational data mining. But then it went as not as a full paper, but as a workshop paper. So I published that paper. How can I get that paper? Where is it? Okay, Emil. I published that paper, and it talks about how our approach failed. I also show the format of it. So you can always do that. That's good. Okay, very quickly, let me also talk about what this paper is about. Right. So it's a transfer. So in education system, like for example, take Khan Academy or Coursera, what people do is people fool the system or game the system. How many of you have done this? Or how many of you know your friends who have done this? On Coursera, you open a quiz, you randomly answer the quiz, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, anything, right? You submit it. Then you get the results. You take a paper and a pen, you note those results, you note the correct answers, then you again open the same quiz. Now you know the correct answers, you type the correct answer and submit it, and bravo, you get 100 on 100, right? A lot of people do this. And this thing that you do, this behavior is called gaming the system, that you are fooling the system and scoring well, even without understanding the concepts. So we were working on how to detect gaming. So a lot of people have already worked on this, right? They create a different system which analyzes different parameters and understands whether a person is gaming the system or not. But then people created those systems for a specific, created those models for a specific system. For example, John maybe a person named John created a system for Khan Academy. A person named Andrew created the same system for Coursera, or so on. Now, this paper talks about, can a model which was created for Coursera work on maybe for Khan Academy, or can we have a cross-native application, a gaming detector model to work on a different system? So that's why it says transferring an existing gaming detection model to different system using a semi-supervised approach. Now, we did this semi-supervised approach, and you can see the results. We failed. So the results that we got, you can see the recall and precision is less than 0.5. The precision is less than 0.01, and it's a worst performing paper. But we don't want people to do this again and waste their time. So that's why we published this paper. One objective of publishing this paper is also to tell people that, okay, this is a failed approach. And second objective is, when you publish this paper, you go to the conference, right? And in that conference, there are many other researchers who are there. And when you're talking about this research, you also look for suggestions. So those people will tell you what you can do to improve. So I got bad results, but when I published this paper in that conference, other people who were attending the conference found this interesting and discussed it with me on how I can improve the performance by using some other algorithm or some other approach. And that's the second objective of why I published this paper. So yes, for your short question, this was my long explanation that even if your algorithm fails, you can publish that paper. It won't go to a good venue, a good journal, but okay, at least and I get something out of the 6 months research that I did. I hope that answers your question. Do you have any follow-up question on that?
No, thanks a lot.
Sweet. All right. How important is coding development when it comes to research? That depends upon what type of research you're doing. I get a call. Oh, okay. Yeah, that depends upon what type of research that you're doing. There can be analysis research. Like now, I told you, right? I conduct these type of session, right? Research talks very frequently, almost every week. And people attending this call usually take interest in research, and I collaborate with them. I help them and guide them throughout the pipeline of writing a research paper. So one of my friend whom I'm guiding is working on education, and he's working on how non-academic factors. So he is working on machine learning for education, and in that he's working on how non-academic factors like socioeconomic status, parents' education, your location, whether you live in a rural place or urban place, and so on, how these factors affect your performance. Is there any relation between them? So in this case, he didn't do any high-end coding. There were very less machine learning models that he created. What mostly he did was analysis. He used Power BI, he used some Matplotlib, some libraries. Yes, it required some basic coding, but that could be done even with non-coding, just Tableau or Power BI, right? So that was a research paper which was just analysis, which didn't require much of coding. When you talk about detection of some disease using some data set, or detection of some, for example, text analysis. So in that case, usually coding comes into picture. And if you're talking about research in AI, and if you're innovating something, there will be definitely coding. But if you're doing something as an analysis or observation, then it won't have coding. I guess the question is pretty much, or the answer for this is pretty much simpler. I hope that answers the question. I keep doing terrible compared to my friends in F1 fantasy. How do I beat up these people? With more knowledge and with more thorough work, I guess, associating yourself with some lab or some professors who are doing some other research. And if you're failing into something back and back again and again, just change your area. Maybe try something else, try something which is basic or naive or little easier than what you're working on right now. All right. Yeah, just let me know if you have some more questions, which are actual questions, and we'll move on. So do we have any question in the Teams chat? All right, no question in the Teams chat. Shreyan or Nihal, do we have any question in the YouTube chat? If so, please let me know. Yeah, we'll move on.
No, like I've sent the link to the link that you sent, so they'll ask all the questions there itself from YouTube as well.
All right, sounds good. Sweet. We'll move on. Now, until now, we discussed how to decide your title, how to write your research, how to do your research project. Now, let's come to how to publish it. Now, there are two ways of publishing your paper. One is journal and one is conference. We'll see them one by one. So in journal, be aware, because this is very important. Publish your paper in a reputed journal. A lot of people you might have seen on LinkedIn publish their paper in some journal which are like IJRCET, IJRET, IJCET, I mean, some random journals, right? Those are journals which will give you acceptance in a day. So if you submit a paper today, irrespective of what quality of the paper is, they will just publish your paper in just 2 or 3 days, right? Now, if your goal is to be a researcher, just a researcher, you can always do that. But if your goal is to be a good researcher, then everyone wishes to publish your paper at a good venue. Now, when people publish in these journals, usually I've seen a friend of mine, a junior in my college, he published 10 papers in just a month or two in these type of journals. And he posted on LinkedIn that I published 10 papers. That was like, okay, bravo. But these type of papers are not like, you're not seen as a good researchers. So if you apply for a research internship, the professor who is reviewing your application, or if you're applying for a master's or PhD program, the professor who is reviewing your application will see where you have published those papers, and they'll see that your paper is in a very bad quality journal and you won't be valued. So whatever you did for 2 months, that's extremely of zero value. So it's very important to publish your paper in reputed journal. So some of the features is that it should have ISSN or DOI number. These are some identifiers. It should be indexed by SCI, Scopus. So these are some agencies, some research education agencies which certify the journal. So look if your journal is certified by them. Look for some reputed name, like let's search for it, right? I can simply journals in machine learning, and let's see what I get. So these are good, right? Because these are maybe ranked by them. We have some ranking over here. You can look for those ranking, or GMLR. Machine learning research is an open access journal, which is pretty much popular. The more popular the journal is, it is difficult for that, to get your paper published into that journal. You can also see impact factor, which is one of the things which impact factor of 4 is good. Impact factor of more than 3 is always good. So you can look for impact factor of that journal, right? In this ranking, I can see natural machine intelligence. These are some journals, and IEEE transactions. So these keywords like IEEE, Springer, Elsevier are always good journal. Never doubt them. So go for such journals, not for some boring journals that doesn't have impact factor and which publishes easily. Now, when you publish in these journals, or when you send your paper to these journals, they will take more than 4 to 5 months just to give you review of whether your paper is accepted or rejected. Because your paper goes through a thorough review, and it's just not a review of whether, they just don't tell you just accepted or rejected. They give you a proper report which talks about what was the reason why they rejected your paper. They'll give you a maybe 20-point report which talks about every segment of your research paper and tell what was satisfactory and what was not. even if they're accepting it, they'll tell you why they accepted it and what can be improved further before finally publishing your paper. So they'll ask you to revise your paper multiple times. And people who publish in journal, it takes up to maybe 2 to 3 years to finally get your paper published, right? It takes a lot of time. Now, submission in journal is valued, publication in journal is valued, but as I told, it takes a lot of time. So the other option is sending to conferences, because as a UG student and as a student, you don't have that much time. PhD student or someone who is a full-time researchers aim for journal, but students can aim for simply conferences. Now again, conferences, look for reputed conferences. Don't go for just any conference. Now, reputed conference can be IEEE conference, Springer conference, or elsewhere conference. Let's search for some conference, right? I'll simply search for upcoming. Okay, so in machine learning, you know some of the top conferences, like simply maybe ICML. You know this? This one is pretty famous. It has been, it was just now last week, and a lot of people posted it on LinkedIn. So ICML is a popular journal, popular conference. Then I cannot just recall now, but there are some popular conference that one can submit to. For machine learning, there is, for healthcare, there is one medicine journal. So I can, if one is really looking for something, I can email me and I'll let you know, but you can go for those conferences. Other than that, I can simply search for upcoming IEEE conferences in India. I can go to some website which talks about that, right? Or maybe I can, I use this Guide to Research, which is a popular website, guidetoresearch.com. And okay, it gives me some top major computer science conferences which is happening in recent past. I can simply search for all conferences. Maybe I can filter them with countries. I can say India, and it will list me some conferences which are, these are valued, right? It is ACM, IEEE, Springer. So you can blindly go for any such conference. Let's go to some conference website. For example, this one, 5th International Conference on Electronic Communication and Aerospace. Okay, let's go for this one. This is more like a machine learning one. Right. So I opened this one. I go to their website. Now this conference is being conducted by, I guess, NIT Silchar, and the conference name is International Conference on Big Data, Machine Learning and Application. I can look for, when I go to conference website, one of the some of the important things that I look for is submission date. So there are important dates. Submit your paper by 25th of September. So that way I know by when I need to complete my research project and research paper. They will give me notification by 10th of November. They'll ask me for camera ready paper, that is the final paper, by 25th of November. And the conference is happening in December, right? That was one thing. The other thing that I look for is call for paper. So the conference website always has call for paper, which lists the area that they're looking for. So they're looking for area in big data, machine learning and applications. They have 3 tracks. And inside that, they have list of topics that they're looking for. But then they also say it's not limited to. So even if your research paper is related to the conference name, but if you cannot find topic here in the call for paper, don't worry, you can still submit, because these are some main topics that they refer. That's the second thing that I look for. The third thing that I look for as an Indian is the registration fee. So usually they have this registration fee column. And so the registration fee for a student, an Indian student, is 4,000 rupees. Well, that's good. Okay, so I'll go for, okay, so usually I have this in mind that, okay, I need a conference which has registration fee which is less than 5,000. So if that's good, I'll go for it based on how my college sponsors me and how I can afford by myself. And those are some of the things that I look for. Once these things are good to go, I can write my paper and submit it. How to submit a paper? I can simply click on submit paper. it will take me to another portal, which is EasyChair. So you can create account on easychair.org. I'll log in. Then here you have option for make a new submission. I'll click on that. Add my details, first name. I add my correspondent detail. Like if I have my some second author, like maybe anyone, whatever. Like okay. And if I have some third author, I can add that associate. So these are some past authors with whom I've written papers already. So I can simply add them, and I can add more authors over here. Or if I'm adding a new author who has not written paper with me before, I can simply add them here with their information, ABC. I can add title of the paper, abstract of the paper, the keywords for the paper, some form, upload the paper and submit it. That's it. The paper is submitted. You don't have to make any fee. You don't have to pay any fee while submitting your paper. You only have to pay the fee while registration. So if your paper is accepted, only then you pay the fee, not at the time of submission, right? I'll show you some submissions that I already made. So once you make the submission on EasyChair, you can look for, okay, let me log in. All right, so these are some conferences that I've submitted to in recent past, in 2020 and 21. They've deleted all the prior submissions. I can simply open a conference, maybe this one. So you get a paper ID. So in this conference, we were the first one to submit. You get the paper ID, the author's name, the details, right? The track that you submitted to, and you can click on view. This is how the submission is. Once your paper is reviewed, this is how the reviews look like. So you can see on this portal itself, what's the review. So review 1. Your paper goes to multiple people for review. So as I told, they give you details of your review, how the paper was, what did they like about the paper. I really liked this paper on several levels. It is interesting to see the new analysis. What are the details? They tell us something to change, like change this, or page 3 has typo, full stop misplaced. So even full stop is misplaced, they tell you. Page 3 has some grammar issue. Page 4 has some oddly satisfying number. Page 5 has some extra space, so remove that extra space. So you can imagine how detailed that review is. Then that was review 1. Then you have review 2, which is again so long. Then you have review 3, which is again so long. Then you have review 4, which is so long. And then based on all this review, you can see the point. It's from -3 to 3. So I got 3 for the first one, strong accept, 2 for the second review, accept, -1 for the third reviewer, weak reject, because the reviewer saw some things which were not good with the paper. Then reviewer 4 again give a strong accept, and based on that, there is a meta review of total, which corresponds to 3, a total point of 3, which is strong accepts, and that's it. Once my paper is accepted and reviewed, I need to submit the camera ready paper. So you can see here with this, there is proceeding author. So there is this camera ready paper and registration, which one does, and you submit copyrights and stuff. And finally, you go to the conference, you present your paper to the conference panel. There are lots of people who present their paper. You meet others. Conference is really interesting. And finally, your paper gets published. Now, benefits of paper getting published is, first of all, you can create your research. Once your first paper is published, you can create your research profile on Scholar. So this is your research profile, Vedant Bahel, Université Laval. These are all of my papers which I've published, mostly in IEEE or Springer conferences. These are my citations, people who have referred my papers. So 5 times this paper has been referred, 3 times this paper has been referred. I have some research metrics, how good researcher am I, citation of 21, H-index, all people have these kind of thing. Like if I search for Andrew Ng's profile. So Andrew Ng has 1 lakh, okay, yeah, 181,000, that is 1,81,000 citations with 134 H-index. that's great, right? So based on this, it also tells you how good researcher are you, and so on. Let me go back. Okay, do we have any question as of now? Where's the Menti chat? How do I make my paper good enough for conference? There are multiple things. The first thing is the paper language, right? You get to know them when you read your paper. So a lot of people suggest not to use not to write paper as first person. You cannot write, I did this in this paper, or we did this in paper. What you do is you write authors in this paper, or in passive tense. Like in this paper, the researchers have worked on XYZ, or XYZ model was implemented, so on. So there are some basic things that one needs to focus on while writing a paper. There's a research language you need to focus on. There's some blogs as well, how to write a good paper. You can refer to that. The best thing to do is start writing. Some of my paper, earlier paper which I published in 2019-20 were with poor language, but as I kept writing paper, as I kept doing research, I improved on that. As I read more and more papers, I improved on that. So those are some of the methods. What journals would you suggest to read for healthcare in AI? I don't have journals on my mind as of now, but what I do is I simply search for whichever area I want to focus on. For example, if I want to focus on brain tumor, I'll go on Google Scholar and I'll simply search for it, because sometimes some good papers are in some bad journals. Sometimes some bad paper also gets published in good journals, so it can be some random. So I don't go journal specific. When I'm reading, I go paper specific. When I'm publishing, at that time I want to look for good journals. So at that time I can simply search for top journals for machine learning in AI, or healthcare in AI, and so on. Does programming language matter when you are doing research in AI? Language like R, Julia are becoming more famous. It doesn't matter. If you're doing research, what people are looking for is your result and your research hypothesis, not what you do. What you do is of least importance, but how you do it and how you do is of least importance, but what you do and what results do you get are of the most importance. How do you get research internships in India and abroad? That's the next section that we'll move to. Are careers in research lucrative? Well, if you are in AI and machine learning, everyone who is working is doing research. So the placements in research in AI and machine learning at Microsoft, at Google, at IBM, all are monitored by their research wing. So if you go on Microsoft Careers and if you look for jobs in AI sector, machine learning, or data science, mostly you will see that those are listed by Microsoft Research Wing. So everything that one do in AI or machine learning, because AI and machine learning itself is a research field, and it's all research. It's everything research. Now, if you want to do a 9-to-5 job where you have a client and this client wants to develop a system, at that time, it's not a research job. Like one of the internships that I'm doing right now is an industry internship. And at that place, we have clients who come with some problem statement which are related to data science, and we develop applications for them. At that time, it's not a research job. But again, when I'm doing those things, right, when I am, for example, working on forecasting, I need to read research paper. A lot of time I have to read research paper because I don't know what are the top forecasting models. So some of the recent research paper tell me what are the new innovations in forecasting using machine learning, and then I can use that. So everything comes back to research. So AI is all about research. It's what I cannot even say it's lucrative. It is everything. I mean, research is AI and AI is research. Is it worth doing masters in India for AI? If you want to do masters, why do in? Okay, let me reframe my statement. If you want to do masters, aim for best universities, right? If you want to get education, get the best education. So if you think that you can get good education in India from some universities, and yes, there are universities where you can get good education in India for AI. I don't know if any, but I think there are. I'm an Indian. I'm proud of India. But then personally, I'll be applying for a master's and PhD program just in next 2 months for fall 2022 in US and Canada. So I won't answer this question. I already answered this question in an indirect way. I hope you understand. How do I search for good validated data set without paying? Kaggle, Google Dataset Research, UCI Irvine Research Repository, IEEE Data Port are some of the websites where you can find datasets. If to check whether it is validated or not, you can look for its popularity. So when I'm looking for, there is this area of research which is Check CRAE, where researchers from Stanford are using machine learning dataset of chest X-rays for disease prediction. Now, this is a popular dataset, so I don't have to look for validation of that dataset. I know it is a popular dataset because researchers from Stanford have been using that dataset. So these are some of the methods. How to get research offer at companies like Microsoft, Google, etc. By applying. Once you have a good research profile, so I was looking for this job at research. Google, there was a machine learning research job posted by Google at their career page, and in the eligibility they said your paper, you should have strong research background with some publications in some popular journal or conferences. They also listed some of the conferences and journal that they are looking to. They wanted people to have papers in ICML, GMLR, and so on. That's one thing. You should have good research background. The second is, if you have noticed, most of the data science and machine learning job, even non-research job posted by Microsoft and Google, has eligibility of you completing PhD. So PhD is research, right? So you need to have PhD, and that's one of the way to get offers or get accepted into Microsoft or Google for research or for machine learning. Can you embed? Good. Oh, I ended it. I want to go back. Can I go back? Okay, there is it. Present it again. How do we get selected for Masters Abroad? Okay, this session is not about that, but at last, if time permits, we'll talk about that. Oh, I already again ended it. Go back, present it. This was one, and where is the second question? Yeah, this one is answered. We'll answer this one later. Let's get back. So once your paper is published, the next section is looking for travel. Now, if you have submitted your paper to a conference, okay, what's the time? Okay, I have another session in 30 minutes. Let's aim to end this session in 30 minutes. So once your paper gets published, gets accepted for conferences, you have some registration fee. If your conference is not in India, you need to have some travel grants to travel to that conference. For example, I had this conference in Amity University, Dubai in 2019, December, which was in Dubai, and I wanted a travel grant to travel to there, right? My paper was accepted. So I applied for multiple grants, but at that time I was in second year, and usually there are very less, almost no grants for first and second year students. There are a lot of grants for third and fourth year students, so I couldn't apply. So the research, finally got to know that the research wing of my college, of my university, gives travel grant and research support. So I applied there, and my university gave me a partial travel grant to travel to Dubai and present my research. I went to Dubai, I presented my research in a conference, which was a 2-day conference. There were researchers from more than 30 countries who came there. There were top-notch researchers whom I met. So if anyone know, I was IEEE chair for my university last year of the Computational Intelligence Society. And I met the Computational Intelligence Society's president, the global president at that conference. So you make so many connections at the conferences, and conferences are fun. So these are some of the research travel grant that one can apply to, and usually you get it, and thereby using that you can travel abroad for the conference. I hope by the time you apply for them, COVID is over and research conference start happening offline again, and you get to travel. That's about research paper. The next is research internships. Give me a minute. Now, once you do some personal research project, usually people are looking to expand their horizon and go for some research internships, right? Now, there can be two types of research internships. Sorry, one is program-based. Like there's some research internship program. For example, the Celestini program, research program by IIT Delhi, Precog research group by IIIT Delhi, the IIIT Delhi research internships. These are some links. The MITACS Canada Global Research Internship Program, which I'm part of. I'll talk about that. And similar to this, there is DAAD, German Research Internship Program, which is sponsored by the government of Germany. Now, this MITACS Canada Research Internship Program is a 12 weeks research internship program, which is sponsored by the government of Canada. One can go to the website, apply for it. The applications will open in next month, or maybe this month, like just in August. You can apply for that. There are research internships which are listed, like projects which are listed from all the universities, almost all the universities in the Canada. A lot of students get accepted with right application. I got accepted. I'm working at Université Laval, which is a French university in Quebec, Canada, with a project which is in robot and optimization, machine learning based optimization method for robot navigation for intrusion detection system, some kind of complex stuff. Sounds like complex, it's not complex. So one can go for it. It's a great program. You get sponsored to go to Canada, live there for 3 months, and you also get paid over that. So you bring home money, you have a free trip for 3 months, you get back and with a lot of money. So that's a great program in terms of finances, in terms of experience, in terms of Canadian experience, in terms of research experience, and so on. Similar to that is DAAD Germany program. So you can also apply for that. These are some of the tips that one can use. So that was one, right? One way of applying to research internship is through these openings of the program. The other is through cold emails. So you can simply email the professors or labs that you are interested into. For example, I was interested into machine learning for education. So I searched who is the top researcher in this world in that area. I got to know about Ryan Baker at University of Pennsylvania. I emailed him, hey Ryan, I'm interested into machine learning. I'm specifically into use of machine learning in education. I've already worked on some of the personal project in this area. I've attached the resume and the work that I did already in this area to this email. I checked your website. I love your work that you do. I checked your website and got to know about this project that you're working on. I think I can be of real help to this project and I can contribute to this project. Can we get on a call and discuss it further? He replied to me that, yes, let's get on a call. I had a small interview with some basic of machine learning and with discussion of my prior work in machine learning for education. And now it has been more than 1.5 years I'm working with Ryan Baker at University of Pennsylvania. We have already published 2 papers, and that's one of the way, by cold emailing. So these are 2 ways to get research internship. That's about it. I guess that's pretty much about what I had on my slide deck as of now. Let's answer a few questions. You can go to my research profile here. I hope I've given this link of the scholar. And if you have any question, you can reach out to me on Twitter, LinkedIn in future. As of now, you can ask questions here, but in future, if you have questions, you can email me or you can reach out to me. Let's get back to Minty. Okay, just one question. How do we get selected for master's abroad? Most of the master's and PhD or grad school program are research-based. And even if they are not research-based, even if they are industry-based, if you have research experience, you have higher chance of getting selected. So if I am a person ABC, if there is a person XYZ, and there is only 1 seat remaining in a university, then if I have research experience, then I'll be on priority and I'll get selected. So you create it gives an edge to your application. Whatever area that you want to apply for example, if you want to apply for master's in AI or robotics or data science, I strongly recommend do projects in that area and publish research paper on some of those topics, on some of those projects. That will definitely help you a lot for masters. And other things how to apply is pretty straightforward through university website, but these are the things that help you with your application. I'll be waiting maybe for more few minutes to see if you have any more questions here on Menti. Right. Hi.
Question in the chat.
Mhm.
What was published in IJSER?
Let's search for this. IJSER. Okay, IJSER. So what I'll see in this is it's in indexing, right? So definitely they say that impact factor in journal high citation, but what is exactly it? We'll look for it. Okay, impact factor. I can look for impact factor. How much is the impact factor of this journal? It does say it has good. Sorry, not COVID. It does say it has a good impact factor. You know, one of the thing with this bad journal, if this is one of the thing is that they fake that as if they're good journals. So it is very difficult understanding whether a journal is a good journal or bad journal. So one thing is how much time does it take for them to give you acceptance? Call for paper. Author's guideline. Let's see. Okay, it takes a lot of time. Cannot find much information. So in this case, since I cannot find much information, I'll simply search on Google for IJSER and I'll see recent papers in here. So let's see. So I didn't find any paper by searching IJSER. That means we are not on a good path. I'll search for the full form of IJSER, which is International Journal of Scientific Research. Let's search this. What happened? Search. Okay. So there are no papers in Google Scholar. That means if you publish a paper in IJSER, your paper will not even come on Google Scholar. Your paper will not be even indexed on a simple search engine. So I don't want to defame any journal. That's not my job. But I hope it answers your question indirectly. And for such questions, reach out to me personally. We can have an exchange of emails on such questions. But yes, I will never go for such journals. That's why, since it's very difficult understanding whether IJSER is good or not, I won't go for it. I'll only go. So personally, I'll only go for conferences or journal which has these name: IEEE, Spenger, Elsewhere's, ACM, so on. Or second, I'll search for top journals or conferences in machine learning and maybe consider the top 50. And if that journal conference comes in those top 50 list, and then only I'll go for it. So these are the things that I look for. Other than this space, if there is any journal conference, I won't apply to it. For example, I did this mistake. So if you see this first paper that I published in my life, which was this one, Quantum Intelligence System Review. It was in this IJETCSE, some journal, and it's not a good journal, right? I published this paper. I got acceptance for this paper in just a day or so. That was pretty funny because how can someone review a paper in just a day or so? So they just wanted to publish all the papers that are coming to them, and that's it, right? So that was one of my mistakes that I did. All right. Do we have any more questions? Menti. Besides AI, what is the scope of other fields like blockchain? Personally, I have not worked on anything other than like that umbrella of AI. I have not worked on blockchain. One can search for on Google simply research trends in blockchain. That's one thing. Second, you can look for some recent papers on blockchain through Google Scholar. That's another. And third, go to the lab's website. So most of the top universities like Stanford, Harvard, UCs, NYU, or maybe some British universities like Oxford, UCL, Nottingham, all of them have different labs for different type of work, right? They have labs for data science, they have lab for AI, they have lab for blockchain maybe. So look for some top labs in this world which works on blockchain. Look for their recent researches. You can look for if there is any scope. If you're really interested and if you have thorough understanding of that subject, you can also find their email ID of those lab. You can email them cold emailing that I'm interested into this. I check your website. I like this work. I think I can be of real help on this project. Can you offer me a research internship? Something like that, right? So personally, I could not answer directly to this question, but I hope you get some of the ways to find answer to this question. All right. So I guess no question on Menti anymore, no question in the chat. If anyone has any question to ask verbally here in the session, like in the Teams, please let me know.
Yeah, I had a question. Do you need to give like coding interviews for research-based jobs or internships?
No, not really. They'll ask you what you did. I never had this experience like with my UPenn internship and with my Canadian internship, both had interview, but that was more like a research discussion interview where we discussed different research methods and trends in research, my prior work, and so on. There wasn't any specific coding interview or stuff. They did ask me, do I work on Python? I said yes. Do I work on R? I said yes, and that's it. Any other question?
Vedant, since we're over time, I think if anyone else has any other questions, I'll share your LinkedIn ID with them and they can ping you there.
All right, sounds good. Oh, I'm sorry, we went over time.
No, it's completely fine. To be honest, I myself learned a lot from this session as well. You completely covered the A to Z of research in, not like A to Z of research and then also in AI. And I'm pretty sure like the audience learned a lot of new facts today as well. So thank you so much for guiding everyone through that whole process. We all found it very informative.
Glad to be here, and thank you already for this boring session for so long. I mean, maybe it was informative, but definitely it was boring.
No, I can assure you it was.
That's kind of you. Thanks a lot for having me here. And if anyone has any more questions, they can definitely reach out to me anytime.
Thank you so much, everyone. And before everyone leaves, I would just like to inform everyone that tomorrow we have Botsters, our AI gaming competition, at 4 p.m., where you have awesome prizes lined up as well. Like you have internships. We are all offering internships and full-time opportunities as well. So make sure you join in. And as I said at the start of today's session at 4, we also have a lot of amazing swags as well. And Dauda Idrisu, an AI MVP for Microsoft, is talking tomorrow. So please be there at 3 p.m. tomorrow. And yeah, that's pretty much it from my side. Again, thank you so much, Vedant, for conducting this awesome session. And yeah, definitely, I will share your LinkedIn ID with the participants and make sure that if they have any doubts, they can contact you.
Great. I'll be happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.